Alright, we are recording for chapter 22. Not many left, and I kind of actually want to see if I can get through them quickly, so I have more time for writing this week. Only 3 points. Two of them are more just a, why are you doing this? Another is a, well, see, now you got it, but you got it wrong. Anyway, let's actually go to that one first. So General Keel, who's the Gungan CNC, it is now actually described that he's with his staff. Which I've been complaining about for a while, that he should not be in the battle, he should be observing it. And now he is. How did he get there? It's never explained. He's only been described as in the battle, like leading the army at its front into this battle. And now it's I'm off with my staff, issuing the retreat. It's like, you should have been with your staff the entire time. Anyway. I mean, it's just, honestly, reading that, and it just got me thinking, it feels again like one author is doing the even chapters, one author is doing the odd chapters, and they don't communicate to be like, wait, he's supposed to be with his staff? Yes, why would you ever have him not? Because he fights, right? He fights by directing the army. You don't know this? No? Anyway. That's just what it feels like to me. The other two we got are both like, why are you choosing to do this? One is, and this is actually the third one, so haven't done first point yet, second and third. Second is one I gave, here's a third. Blockade is used to describe the lone battleship that's orbiting Naboo and that Anakin with the other Naboo fighters is attacking. And it's like, but it's not a blockade. In fact, it said when they had returned to Naboo that the blockade had been ended, because why blockade a port you already control? That is what was said, so it's not a blockade. You can't use the word here. It's also not a very good blockade. So yeah, it's like, again, you're not paying attention to what you've written previously. At least it does go from describing it as a battleship to a flagship, and it's like, okay, I'm not actually sure if it is truly a flagship, because a flagship is supposed to have an admiral's flag on it, because, and I think I've talked about this in other videos, an admiral on his flagship commands the fleet. It's a captain that controls the ship. The admiral doesn't lead the ship itself, the captain does. But it is the flag, the admiral's flag is on that ship, so that's where you look to for instructions. This is also one of the things that Star Trek gets wrong, because like in TNG, the Enterprise is described as being a flagship. That would require there being an admiral on board. There almost never is. So it's... yeah, Star Trek definitely got that wrong. Here, I'm actually willing to accept it, because it is the one controlling all the droids on the ground. So in that sense, it might be considered a flagship, not because of the admiral aspect, but because of the command and control over the battle. I could see that being the case. Not sure if that's necessarily what you want to go with. Yeah. And I will grant that the term flagship is also used to refer to the greatest of them. So like the flagship GPU for, because I know graphics cards, kind of, is typically the most powerful and also most expensive. And that's obviously got nothing to do with admirals, but it is like the one that, hey, look to this. So it is still about the, hey, look to this aspect, which for a fleet, a Navy fleet, is you look to the one with the admiral, because that's the one that will tell you what to do in the battle. Anyway, coming back to the first point now. And this is why do you do this? It's actually, like, very much a good question. Like, I would, if I were an editor and somebody did this, I'd be like, why? There's no value to doing this. It describes, for the construction of the palace, transparent steel and permacrete. So transparent steel in place of glass, and permacrete in place of, well, concrete. Okay, what are their properties, and why do those properties matter? Because what's described here is Panaka just shoots the window with his blaster and it blows apart, and when he shoots another window with a blaster, that is blown apart, and there's pieces of permacrete now on the ground. I mean, if these were blaster proof, okay, now go ahead, make a new material. But they aren't. It's glass and concrete. You just want to be fancy and start throwing in jargon that has no value. Don't do that. Seriously, don't do that. It's a waste. And to me, I see that as you're treating me like an idiot. Like, or yeah, kind of like an idiot. It's a little different, but it is like the whole, see, it's these new advanced materials. Isn't that interesting? It's like, no, it's not. It's glass and concrete. There's no benefit to this new material. Don't just throw jargon in. It doesn't improve anything, especially when what's the distinction? There isn't any. So, yeah, I mean, this is part of the reason I actually kind of avoid the idea of new materials in my science fiction. I mean, at least new materials that I would name like this. Technically, there are new materials, but it's like the coating that goes on the spaceships. I talk about it in a letter from Catherine. It's like, it's a ceramic. And then just talk about what its purpose is, or how it kind of works. But it's like, yeah, it's a ceramic. I don't give it a special name. I don't think that's relevant. Because it's like, who cares? It's a marketing. It would be the marketing name. So it would be transparent steel. Or transparent aluminum, technically. But it's like, just, here's this function. And yeah, I imagine it's going to be kind of like a ceramic. And whenever I do the assigned reading for that book, one thing that I'll mention is my vision would be something almost like slip, if you know what slip is. Almost like that you would paint on and then in some way bake it on. And you would add layers up over time. And just to help explain why I think you would use it as a coating on spaceships, is it serves as an ablative layer. So if a particle of some kind hits it, it breaks off this ceramic piece, which is part of the reason why I was thinking ceramic, because we have ceramic plates for body armor that'll stop bullets by actually shredding the bullet. I figured, hey, that makes sense. It gets painted on, and whenever it's damaged, well, you can paint on another layer, and it can get thick before you have to get rid of it, but that way, it's an ablative layer. It takes the damage instead of the metal of the ship, the actual hull of the ship. So, but it's like, there's a specific purpose here. It has characteristics that satisfy this purpose, and I don't give it a special name. Here, it's given a special name, but there's no special purpose. There's no special properties to it, no special characteristics. That's a waste. Don't do it. At least that's my opinion. You want to disagree on that? Go ahead. Go ahead. Do whatever you want in your own story. I just think it's stupid and is kind of insulting to the reader that it's like, I'm going to come up with this term for something that's completely and utterly familiar to you. It's like making you think that, oh, this is special when not. It's really not. I mean, Dick Van Dyke Show, redcoats are coming. Do you know what we call this in England? A chair. Yeah, it just use the correct term. There's no reason to come up with something else. I can actually stop here. I'm just thinking, because we do have some of the fighting between Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Maul. I do kind of want to mention a little bit with that. Just, I don't feel it's necessary. It talks of Qui-Gon, that when he was trained by his Jedi Master, that his master considered him one of the best swordsmen in the galaxy, and that he has been throughout the galaxy and fought many foes that were considered so powerful, and he beat them. It's like, why do we care? I get the whole, you want to show that he is impressive, so Darth Maul, by challenging him so effectively, is also impressive. I can understand that. I just feel like, here, let me actually, this is right at the beginning of the chapter if I can get to it. Okay. Qui-Gon was one of the most able swordsmen in the Jedi Order. The Jedi Master he had trained under had considered him one of the best the Master had taught in his more than 400 years in the Order. Qui-Gon had fought in conflicts all across the galaxy in the span of his life and against odds so great that many others would not have stood a chance. He had survived battles that had tested his skill and resolved in every conceivable way. But on this day, he had met his match. It's like, that's fine and all. I just feel like you don't need to elevate him that strongly to still have it be that Maul is directly challenging him and is such a threat. And we kind of got that, especially by the whole I mean, it keeps leaning on the whole, the Sith Lord he battled with Obi-Wan was more than his equal in weapons training, and he had the advantage of being younger and stronger. It's like, that's kind of all you need. You don't need the whole, oh, he's one of the best in the galaxy. It's like, you don't really need to build him up that high. I mean, it's like one thing, the television show MASH, I know a lot of people really like it. But one thing that I realized at one point, and really annoys me, is in that show, they repeatedly say that the MASH unit, the 477th, is the best MASH day. It's like, why? Why do you need to do this? Why do you need to talk up that this MASH? It's not like we see any other MASHes. It's not like we have any comparison between it and the other MASHes. Otherwise, it's totally irrelevant, but it's like, no, canonically, they're the best. Everyone wants to be like them. It's like, why? I mean, it seems like you're just stroking ego there as opposed to actually supporting the story. And I feel like that's going on here with Qui-Gon. I mean, it's just, you could throw out the whole best in the galaxy stuff and just, Qui-Gon had fought in conflicts all across the galaxy in the span of his life, and against odds so great that many others would not have stood a chance. He'd survived battles that had tested his skill and resolve in every conceivable. You could do that, but that's literally cutting a paragraph in half. That's all you need, though. You don't need him to be one of the best in the galaxy, because what value does that add here? It also leads to one problem of how is Maul so skilled? No, I mean, this is a legitimate question, because who has he been training with? Palpatine. That's all he's had access to. Everything else he would have had to have been doing in secret, and Palpatine also would have to be in secret. And by Maul being in secret, I mean he couldn't go to these other planets, because eventually there would be word, unless he's killing every possible witness. There would be people talking about, there's this mysterious dude with a red lightsaber going around. The Jedi would have heard about this then. So he would be very much restricted to something like just either doing assassin type things where he's constantly killing people in secret, which I kind of doubt that would be the case, or he has to train with Palpatine. Palpatine, who has to lead a double life, so he can't spend as much time training with Maul. And it's also how powerful, how skilled is Palpatine at this, that he could train Maul up to that level. It really doesn't make much sense to say that Maul should be skill level at Qui-Gon's. Qui-Gon should have so much more experience, and does make a point. His edge, now to the extent that he had one, came from his long experience and intuitive grasp of how an adversary might employ a lightsaber against him. That's what you actually really should be leaning on here, is just that Qui-Gon is highly experienced, but Maul is still able to challenge him. That is all you need. Because otherwise you start questioning, okay, how can Maul be at this level of the greatest swordsman in the galaxy? It doesn't make sense. But you focusing on the whole being he's younger and stronger. That's fair. It makes perfect sense that and even stronger than Qui-Gon. I was like, you can do that. You don't need to talk up Qui-Gon to be up here, because it doesn't. It's too easy to start questioning it. It falls into that flimsy and fragile area where, sorry, my brain just turned off. But flimsy and fragile where, well, we just want Qui-Gon to be this skilled, so we're just going to say he's this skilled, as opposed to it being yeah, but is it really important? Nah, not really. I would say, but it makes Maul better. It's like, Maul just needs to be better than Qui-Gon. That's it. He doesn't need to be better than everyone in the galaxy. Plus, it would also then force the question of, why is this the first time that he's actually encountered and fought Jedi? Because if he's this powerful, if he's this good, wouldn't it have made sense that Palpatine would somehow know where Jedi off on missions are and send Maul to attack and kill them as training? I mean, it's not necessarily unreasonable. And especially if Palpatine could also arrange to be nearby, so even if Maul were killed and he needs a new apprentice, he can just kill the Jedi to make sure he doesn't report back and then leave. That would make sense, especially for a Sith training method. Kill that dude or be killed. And then, it doesn't matter, he's not walking away anyhow. I mean, that would make sense and allow him to train up and potentially be at Qui-Gon's level. But for this, it just, I don't, it doesn't make sense. And it's also, you're bringing it up now. We've already had Qui-Gon in a lightsaber battle with Maul, and you went such a thing. Yeah. I just don't feel it's that good. One thing also, though, we're running out of time because as I've said before, I remember at some point reading that the Jedi use the Force for level of prognostication in lightsaber battles so they don't accidentally cut themselves. I still haven't seen that yet because I remember it. I don't know where I saw it now. But maybe I've got 2 chapters left. Maybe it'll be in one of those. That part of it was Maul suppresses that in Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. Well, in the Jedi he's facing, at least. And that's part of the reason why he is so lethal. Haven't found it yet. I don't think I'm just making that up. It makes a lot of sense for the lore of Star Wars. It really does. I just don't know where it is, and it's making me doubt. But it as I said, it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense for the lore of Star Wars. So even if that isn't right in here, I wouldn't be surprised if it is technically canon, just from somewhere else. Alright, this has been long enough. I want to try to do the last 2 chapters, which will necessitate 3 videos, because I also want to do an overall. Yeah. See you next time.